Hey, I'm Mr. Leffler. I'm your woodshop teacher. This is your table saw safety video. I'm going to show you a couple of things. These are basics. These are the things that you should know when you walk up to a table saw. Now, having said that, it is important that you taking this lesson and you passing that test does not mean that you are qualified to be on a table saw. If you've got one at your home, you need to use it under the supervision of an adult that knows what they're doing. Okay, having said that, let's move on. This is a saw stop. It has a special technology that most table saws do not have. And then you went into Schoology and you watched that video, you understand what this saw does. And it can stop in 1,000ths of a second, faster than the blink of an eye. The blade stops and it retracts down into the table. It's an incredible technology. The school district spent a lot of money to have these in the lab for your safety. I hope you get a chance to come in and use them. This thing is so accurate. It is one of my favorite. It is one of my favorite pieces of equipment in this lab. You can do so many things with a table saw. And you can do it accurately. One way that we do that is by moving this fence back and forth. Now, if you raise the red handle, it allows you to move this fence back and forth. And there's a bomb sight right here. If you look down that bomb sight, you can set it to exactly the size that you want. If I wanted to cut 100 4-inch pieces, I lock this into 4 inches. And now every single piece that I cut will be exactly the same and perfect. To turn the saw on, it's kind of confusing. Usually you think green light means go, but this paddle actually pulls out to turn the machine on. And that special technology, you'll notice this little green light is flashing. As long as that green light is flashing, that saw stop technology is working. So one of the questions on the safety test is, if you turn it off and the blade is still moving, it hasn't stopped yet, does the technology still work? It sure does. Now, another thing in the safety test is the height of the blade. You have to have the blade higher than the piece of material that you want to cut. And this has got, I think, 60 teeth on it. And these little areas in between the teeth, these little valleys, those are called gullets. And we want to make sure that the wood or the blade is taller than the wood. So we can make an adjustment right back here. This wheel on the back raises and lowers the blade. And I like to have it, I set the blade height so that the gullets are just above the workpiece. So in the safety test, it might say, and that's about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. And in the safety test, I think that's what it says. I'm giving you the answer. If you do not get this right, it is nobody's fault but your own. I just told you that the blade has to be 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the workpiece. If you get it wrong, it's on you. This guard is really, really important. It covers the blade and it eliminates accidental contact with the blade. But it also does a couple other things. Check this out. Do you see these? These, they look like weapons of mass destruction. They got these little teeth on them. Well, what happens is when the blade goes through the saw, if the blade ever gets kicked back, now a kickback is when the blade shoots back violently, these little teeth will dig into the wood and not permit the wood to kick back. So they are important. Whenever you operate this table saw, maybe you've got one in your garage like we said earlier, if it does not have a guard on it, you are wrong. You've got to keep that guard on there. Every single woodworker on the planet has a table saw story where they either had a close call or they are missing some fingers or had a bad accident or they left a thumbnail somewhere in the shop. You've got to have the guard on the machine. So let's talk a little bit more about a kickback. And a kickback is when the piece of wood gets stuck in between the blade and the fence and it shoots back violently. I wish you were here. I wish you could see this. Because that back door, that steel door in the back of the room is full of dents. Those boards go flying. They are missiles when they go to the back of the room. You do not want to get hit by a kickback. So I'm going to show you how to not get hit by a kickback. We use something called the parallel hand method. And if you ever shot pool, if you know anything about shooting pool, you get your pool stick, right? And you line it up like this. Same thing with the table saw. I'm gonna line my body up. I'm actually parallel with the blade, parallel hand method. If this board shoots back, it goes past me and takes out some other kid in the back of the room. Parallel hand method is this hand is planted on the table and this hand pushes the board all the way through the machine. This hand does not move. I see students doing this and they slide this hand with it. At this point, you're pushing against the blade, right? So we want to keep this hand planted and we're going to slide the board all the way through. Important. And on the safety test is this. If you can't fit your fist, if you can't put your fist between the blade and the fence, then you need to use one of these. This is a push stick. If anything happens, it happens to the push stick and not your hand. So watch what happens. If I've got the board and it's sitting on the table, I'm doing everything that Mr. Leffler told me, I put my plant hand down, I put the push stick way out here, and if I start to push on this, notice that the board pops up. I like to keep the push stick right here, and then I feed it through with my hand, and when the board is completely on the table, I get my push stick out, and I feed it all the way through. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that wonderful? Man, I wish you guys were here. We're moving and grooving, we're shaking, we're banging, we're turning, we're burning, we're kicking the tires, lighting the fires. It's fantastic. Now, there's another video. There's the video that shows you how the soft stop works, and then there's another video by Greg Palini, and he shows you just the fundamentals of using the table saw. Highly recommend that you watch it. Watch it more than once if you have to. You should actually watch it more than once. And this is a very dangerous, powerful piece of equipment. Educate yourself. Be smart. We are Wildcats. We are high flyers, highly motivated, highly dedicated, highly caffeinated, hardcore Wildcats. Go.